Today, folks, I will be rating all of the Silent Hill games on a tier list, how much I like them. This is obviously going to be opinion. It'll be Punchy's opinion hour. We're just kind of shooting the shit here today. But then, once I've rated all of the games, I will be rating them as speedruns. I will reset the list, and then I'll tell you what I think about their speedruns, as I am in the unique position of having ran or tried to run basically every single game in this franchise. So we're gonna do them both, and then we're gonna see what the contrast is. That's what we're gonna do. So we'll start with Silent Hill 1. My boo. Where does it go? Where does it go? What do you think, Punchy? Where do you guys think I would end up putting it? No, I'm putting it in A. And the reason for this is that Silent Hill 1 holds up really well as a PS1 game, if you ask me. But it suffers a certain weirdness of controlling that comes when, you know, you're the first game in a given style. Silent Hill 1's tank controls are really strange by standards of the genre. Like, really strange. I have to warn people going into it. Like, particularly if they're just coming off a Resident Evil game on PS1 as well, which has very snappy tank controls. Silent Hill 1 is like driving a slightly beat-up car. It's a bit much. It's very difficult to get a handle on. It's a compelling game still. Like, the sense of atmosphere is evocative, and I like it sort of like industrial, thinky, bonky soundscape going on, where everything's sort of like clanging and machinery is going dong. It still holds up really well, I think. Obviously, I like Silent Hill 1, obviously. But I do have to warn people when they play it, is like, you might want to take a moment to, like, get used to how moving works, because it really throws people off. I've seen, like, people get frustrated with it, because it's not quite as snappy as a Resident Evil is with its, like, its turning and what have you. And I agree, it's a bit much to handle sometimes, but it's still good. You know, Silent Hill 1, still good. I'm kind of rattling through the obvious ones, because, like, everyone likes the basic Silent Hill trilogy, you know, like Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, everyone likes those. So every Silent Hill fan is like, they're fans because of these three games, so... Silent Hill 2, straight to S. I replayed it yesterday with the Enhanced Edition. It's still good. It's still good. It's good every time. The mystery it builds is excellent, it's intriguing, the characters are... they're wonderful, and the final hour of the game is an absolute showstopper in every sense of the word. Like, particularly the final letter reading at the end is just... cut it, no notes, perfect game. Fan-dabby dozy. I do love me some Silent Hill 2. Like, replaying yesterday really, like, solidified this, like, in my brain. I was like, you know, Silent Hill 2, quite a good game. Silent Hill 2 is a very good game. There's a reason it's one of the more beloved entries of the franchise, I think. Now, this being said, I am not without grumbles with Silent Hill 2. Some of its level design, I think, is just kind of boring. I don't much care for, like, the Historical Society segment. It's like a whole bunch of narrow hallways with not a lot going on in them. Like, I know it's the symbolism of you're gradually descending down into your depths as James proceeds to get further and further inside his own head. But I don't know, I think it's kind of boring. I don't much care for, like, the extended tunnel segment. It's like, But overall, I don't think that's, like, enough that it seriously hurts the experience for me. But I remember the first time playing it, I was, like, not particularly enthralled by that segment of the game. I was a bit, okay, can we do something? can we move on a little bit? Can we get somewhere? That's how I felt about Silent Hill 2. But it's still a really good game. And every time I play it, like, I think I like it. I liked it more on subsequent replays, which I think is the sign of, like, something that's, like, truly worth sinking your teeth into. And indeed, the Enhanced Edition playthrough I did the other day really, like, hammered that home. It's like, yeah, this is still good. This is still fun. This is good every time. And Silent Hill 3, those of you who have hung around the stream for a while might know that this is an obvious one. Silent Hill 3 is my favorite game in this franchise. Like, easily. I think it's just the best one. I think it's the environments are the most, like, interesting. They pop the most. They offer the most detail. Heather herself is, like, the franchise's most likable protagonist. She's full of personality. I very much enjoy all the characters in the game. I think the cutscenes are excellently, like, shot and composed. They're really entertaining. The, like, animation quality and, like, nuance of how characters, like, sort of shuffle around and move their arms and stuff is really, really detailed even by modern standards. And I think it's also got the most, like, combat variety. Melee is actually a good option in Silent Hill 3, like a reasonable one that you could play the game with. Guns are also good, but melee weapons are also good. Like, I mean, this is mostly down to the katana actually doing quite a lot of damage, but still, it's like a viable option, even on the hardest difficulty settings. It's, like, good, it's balanced. And you can block, which actually works quite well with regards to combat, provided the enemy's attacks are marked as blockable in the first place. Which there are a couple of enemies that just inexplicably aren't for some reason, which is great fun. But for the most part, the system, like, works well. It also, I think it's the best feeling game of the trilogy as well. Like, in terms of movement, Silent Hill 3's tank controls are really smooth and easy to pilot. I mean, I think this because I'm, like, experienced with tank controls, but Silent Hill 3's controls just, like, feel good to me. Like, I feel like it's very easy to get Heather to do what the hell I'm asking her to do. She can move, she can strafe around. It just, I don't know, it feels what? It's responsive. I like it. When I was doing the Silent Hill 2 playthrough the other day, trying to move with the pistol was kind of weirdly hard in Silent Hill 2. Like, whenever you would shoot, James would sometimes just dead stop for no reason. He would, like, take stance and then shoot, and, like, that pause was enough for an enemy to close the distance and, like, bop me in the nose. I never have that problem with Silent Hill 3. If I'm telling Heather to move, she moves. James likes to just stop sometimes when aiming, and I don't know why. Like, is it like... I was wondering if I was having, like, a controller dead zone issue while I was playing. It's like, no, I think Silent Hill 2 is just like that, though. I think it's just like that. I don't know why James likes to just pause while, like, doing gun, but he does. Whereas Heather is less prone to that kind of behavior. On top of all of that, I also like how Silent Hill 3 serves as a very definitive close to the trilogy of games. Like, it's basically the ideal ending for a story of 3 games, if you ask me. Because, like, I'm of the opinion, the apparently not so common one, that the Silent Hill games, 1 to 3, are a thematic trilogy. Like, I know people say, you know, Silent Hill 2 is a perfectly standalone experience. It does work on that level, but it is definitely a sequel. Like, it replies to the themes of Silent Hill. I've got, like, I'll explain this in more detail in some other time, but not right now. It's like a whole spiel. I've done the whole spiel on stream before. I'm not doing it again. But I like the way Silent Hill 3 wraps up the story. Heather conclusively, like, moves on, you know? She puts in it. She could get in her own head about the guilt of her past, but Silent Hill 3 is about rejecting that. Rejecting the theme of guilt from Silent Hill 2. Putting an end to it. She mourns, she enjoys her blonde hair, she moves on. And I like that ending for Silent Hill 3. It's kind of bittersweet, it's a bit painful, but it's very nice. It's a great way to end the series off. And, like, Silent Hill 3, perfectly, this is what I consider to be, like, the ideal ending for the franchise. It's like, it ended here, they clearly wanted it to end here. I don't want to say, you know, oh, it should have ended here. But if you're gonna end a franchise on that note, it's a pretty good fucking note to go out on. Good work. Good work. Well done, Silent Hill 3. We like you. I like you. Right. Silent Hill 4. This is gonna be the one that I think is gonna immediately sort of, like, annoy people. Because I really don't like Silent Hill 4 at all. I think it's quite annoying to play. I know, because, like, Silent Hill 4 has its fans, like, especially among the Silent Hill fandom. But I don't like Silent Hill 4 in the slightest. It's got really good, like, art design, and it attempts a novel gameplay structure. But wow, I don't like playing it. You may notice it's like one of the least featured games on this stream. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that I find Silent Hill 4 almost completely intolerable to actually play. One of my biggest problems with it is probably not one you'd expect. I hate the movement. I feel like Henry is such a pain in the ass to control. It's not quite tank controls, but it's not quite snappy third-person movement either. He has to turn in a wide arc, but you can't, like, turn on the spot. He has to sort of rotate in a circle in order to turn. It's like, I don't know why it works like that, but I really, really dislike it. It doesn't feel good to control at all. At all. Not at all. No good. I hate that. And then the fact that half of the game is a repeat of environments from the first half, but now you have an annoying escort character with you whose AI bugs out all the time, was deeply frustrating. It's like, why? Why do you do that? Why? I'm, like, surprised this game maintains fans with that level of, like, just Like, that's what you want me to do? You want me to go through the levels backwards with an escort on hand who is bad at defending herself and is actually generally worse if you try to make her defend herself because she'll, like, waste time hanging around trying to hit things with a handbag instead of just hurrying on to the next point. And if you get too far ahead of her, she'll take damage off screen, but you won't know how close you are because the game doesn't include any kind of indication of when Eileen is close enough to come with you. It's like, nah, man, that sucks. You know, like, in Dead Rising 2, they finally added an indicator of when an NPC that you are recruited is close enough to you to follow you to the next room. Silent Hill 4 needed something like that. I know it's very gamey, and, like, Silent Hill games tend to try sort of avoid, like, non-diegetic things like that, but half the game's an escort quest. It really would have helped. It really would help. Yeah, weirdly as well, Silent Hill 4 is the only one that Konami has, like, consistently re-released, and I imagine it's, like, a voice actor rights thing, as, like, the whole HD collection debacle showed. Speaking of the HD collection, slight dip out of order, the HD collection is nigh unplayable. Why? Oh my god. Straight to F tier. Remember when I streamed the HD collection on 360 and it took me multiple attempts to get through Silent Hill 3 because the game kept crashing halfway through? Because I've played the HD collection. I've played it through multiple times. It is unbelievable that it released in that state. Silent Hill 3 is so crash-prone, it doesn't even run at the right speed. Like, it runs at the wrong speed. It's too slow. It lags too much. It doesn't... What did they do to Silent Hill 3 on the HD collection? I'm so sad. It runs badly. It's like, what? This is a PS2 game. Come on. Like, I know it's a really nicely detailed PS2 game, but it's a PS2 game. It's like, how is it running, like below its intended frame rate? It should run at more. Like, it should be 60. It's... This is on top of, like, a litany of audio problems. Like, the audio in general in the HD collection is completely screwed. Absolutely disastrous. Like, panning effects are broken across the whole thing. Like, things are coming out of the wrong ear all the time. In cutscenes, in the original game's cutscenes, right, the whole soundscape has been considered, right? So that you know, in most games they do this, actually. Where, you know, if a character is on screen side right, the voice will come out of your right ear hole, like... panning, the audio scape, you get a sense of the room this way. If you want to play a game that has no regard for this, play Silent Hill the HD collection, where you will have no idea where anyone is standing, and it will sound really weird. It's like, this is the kind of thing that you don't notice until it's done wrong. And Silent Hill the HD collection does it quite wrong, where, like, dude stands on, like, camera left, but voice comes out of right, and immediately you're just like, that's wrong. And then you'll be thinking about it. It's like, it's the audio equivalent of telling someone to breathe manually. Like, now that you're noticing it, it's like going to eat you inside. On top of all the sound effects that play at the wrong speed, there's a bunch of sound effects that play at the wrong speed, or in the wrong place. And this is, like, not even, like, nerd minutia. It's, like, really noticeable. Like, the second you start walking on a grate and it goes chung, 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 you're just like, why is this so loud? Why is this sound effect so loud? And the answer is that they used a different sound effect from, like, opening a grate, opening, like, a metal door, and used it as the footstep sound effect. It's like, why, what's going on? I know the whole story with the HD collection, right, is that, like, it was based on unfinished beta code of the game or whatever. I don't care what the reason is for it coming out that way. I'm not, like, casting judgment on its creators or its developers or anything like that. I'm casting judgment on the end result, and the end result is dire. It's quite bad. And this is before we get into, like, the whole recasting of the voices, which was a whole snafu that remains kind of ongoing to this day, because I suspect it's the reason that Silent Hills 1, 2, and 3 have never been re-released. The fact that Konami, as it turns out, didn't actually own the rights to the voices they were trying to reuse. So that was fun. And as for the new voice acting, I'm bothered by Silent Hill 3 the most, because it's the only one where you can't use the old voice acting. They recast everyone, and Laura Bailey is no Heather. I don't know, it's I feel weird that they went with, like, sort of the anime dub crew for Silent Hill the HD collection, but they did, and it's like, this is like the cast of Catherine. And particularly, I really do not like new Heather, like, at all. I feel like Heather Morris as Heather in Silent Hill 3, like, she literally is the character, like, she is the character to the extent that they named the character after her, you know? It's like, that's how much they cared about the actors embodying their characters in the original games, is that she literally gave the character its name, its mocapping, and, you know, she was the character. It's like, that makes recasting really challenging, because she was so involved with all of that. And you can tell, it really shows in the performance, because Heather Morris absolutely fucking killed it. I struggle to picture it any other way. Wasn't Silent 3 HD's Heather via Amanda Wynn Lee? I don't think so. I thought it was Laura Bailey. Either way. You're gonna make me Google that. I'm gonna Google it. I'm Googling it. I'm doing it. Oh, Laura was Claudia. Fuck. I got it backwards. No, you're right. Amanda Wynn Lee was Heather. Laura Bailey was Claudia. Whoops, I got it backwards. She was in the game! I just got the character wrong. Ha! I'm clever. Well, whatever. I don't like Heather's voice. I also feel like Claudia, since we're on the topic, I also feel like Claudia sort of struggles to maintain the sort of, like, pious reverence that the original delivery had. Is like, she sounds lost in the faith in the original, and in the new one, it sounds a bit flat. She kind of sounds bored. Yeah, I got the roles backwards. I thought Laura was Heather and the other. Whatever, dude. Get off my lawn. So that is me. I guess it's not quite me done. You know what? Do it out of order. Whatever. So, well, let's talk about the Japanese ones first. Do them in order of that. Why not? Silent Hill. This is Silent Hill Play Novel, which, if you've never heard of, is a Japanese-only Game Boy Advance visual novel. Adaptation of Silent Hill 1. I've actually played Play Novel. Multiple times, in fact. I don't believe I've ever streamed it because it's, you know, Japanese only. But for what it is, it's not bad. Like, it's not an amazing visual novel experience by any means, but I don't know, like, the concept's, like, very strange, but it's not the silliest thing I've ever played. I think it's got, like, pretty good, like, renders of scenes going on and what have you. And as for the writing, it's like, honestly, I don't understand Japanese that well, so, like, how do I assess the writing precisely? It adapts the game fairly well. It feels like it's doing an okay job. So, like, I'm kind of hard-pressed to like this, because this one's really not what most people would think of or expect from a Silent Hill game. But it's, like, fine. For what it is, I think it's fine. But on the other hand, it's fine, like, you know, would I recommend someone play Novel? Not really. I'm gonna put it in C, as like, should you play Novel as an essential extension of your Silent Hill experience? Not really, no. But I think Play Novel's got some good art. It's got some decent apps. It's even got a couple of puzzles, believe it or not. It's, like, not quite a pure vision novel. There's some puzzles to be solved as you go through the whole thing. And there's the Sybil scenario, so you get to see, like, what Sybil was doing in Silent Hill while you were, like, doing your Harry Mason thing. You get to see the other side. It's a very brief scenario. It's not, like, a huge amount of Sybil content, but there's, like, a little bit there. If you're a super fan, like, and can understand Japanese, it might extend your understanding of the deep Silent Hill 1 lore by a little bit, but it's, like, far from essential. And it's not exactly a game I'd recommend playing, like, on its own merits, you know? I know it's funny that I put Play Novel above 4, but one of these made blood leak out of my ears and the other didn't, so that's my basis. Right, last Japanese game on this list. Silent Hill the Arcade, because that's what this is. Now, I think most people are apt to immediately slap this one low because Silent Hill shouldn't be a dumb rail shooter that's, like, disrespectful to the franchise, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to take a different tack and say, I'm going to put it lower on the list because, as a rail shooter, it's not even particularly good as a rail shooter. It's alright, though. Like, it's fine. I've played worse rail shooters, but I've definitely played better. I've played Silent Hill the Arcade both on an actual cabinet, which, honestly, the actual cabinet design's pretty cool. It's got, like, flowing curtains and stuff, with, like, the little Uzi controller kind of deal. It's, like, it's kind of neat. It's got a nice visual design as a cabinet. And I've played it, like, via unofficial emulation on PC. Silent Hill the Arcade is a bizarre stitching together of various Silent Hill locations and monsters from previous games to make a sort of vaguely connected, like, haunted house ride rail shooter arcade game. But as a rail shooter, scoring relies on, like, never ever missing your shot and pumping shots into dead enemies to increment your combo meter, which I kind of hate. So, like, I would never score attack that game. It would give me... It would annoy me. And the other funny thing about the arcade is that it's quite long for a rail shooter. Silent Hill the arcade is, like, relatively long for a rail shooter. It's, like, about an hour. Most rail shooters are, like, 30 to 40 minutes, something like that, like, at max. Silent Hill the arcade at a full hour is actually on the longer end for one of those. And you can feel the difference. And it doesn't sound that significant, but... it starts to wear on you by the final. It's like, holy crap, this is still going. I particularly like the point in Silent Hill the arcade when the protagonists just step onto a boat and are immediately transported to the Silent Hill 3 mall, which is not even in Silent Hill. It's like in a completely different town. It's like, okay, like I know they're just using assets from wherever, like to create it. It's like, we got the Silent Hill 3 mall files liner. Let's just bung that in there real quick, use some Silent Hill 3, it'll be great. But, like, it's really funny that that's... because, like, yeah, mall inside a boat is how that game develops. It's funny for a playthrough, but I don't think Silent Hill the arcade has staying power, even among, like, the rail shooter pantheon. Unlike, say, I don't know, like, Resident Evil's rail shooter spin-offs, like Umbrella Chronicles, which I thought was much better, even though that game has balancing problems. That's all the Japanese games. I've decided to do that in order of, like, I don't know, not quite development, just sort of vague groupings, I guess. Origins. Origins is playable. B. Straight to B with ye, Origins. I think this might be the most surprisingly high placing for, like, a game on this list. Origins is playable. It's fine. As far as PSP survival horror goes, it's perfectly functional. And it is definitely a PSP game. Like, this is me judging it based on the PSP version, because that's the best version, it's the good version. The PS2 port is horrible, it breaks the lighting in all sorts of weird ways. Not great. PSP version, much more playable, much more fun. The music is fading out. How dare you? No. Now, I think a lot of the consternation about Origins comes from its plot, which is kind of deserved because the plot of Origins is really stupid. Origins attempts to sort of bill itself as a prequel but makes numerous continuity errors that cause it to be irreconcilable with the actual plot of Silent Hill 1 and then consequently 3, so it... As far as I'm concerned, the Western games exist in this bizarre limbo state of being not quite canon because they don't, like... They follow it so poorly that they don't reconcile, so I just sort of write them off entirely. And Origins' plot is like another, like... It attempts to tie into Silent Hill 1, but they couldn't resist, like, copying Silent Hill 2 again by just giving Travis some unnecessary, like, tragic backstory deal. It's like, he has a history of trauma with the town, and his parents is like, don't they fucking all, mate? And again, it doesn't even really play its cards too close to its chest with that one, where, like, you walk through the sanitarium not that long in the game, and you get, like, a funny flashback scene. It's like, I've always hated you! You and your devil son! It's like, subtlety is dead, enter the Western era. Woo! And rough to the races with Origins. But despite of all of that, I think Origins is, like, a functional survival horror experience on the PlayStation Portable. I could do without the combat QTEs, but for the most part, I like the idea of picking up various weapons. I could do less with them breaking. The quick select menu for quick swapping weapons during combat is not very quick at all, in fact. Just use the menu. It'll be fine. But in terms of, like, actual gameplay execution, I think Origins has the least problems of the set. It's, you know, there's levels that you gradually explore through and open up as you find more keys. The hallways can kind of look a bit similar as you go through them, but there's some visual variety between the locations. You have, like, hospital, sanitarium. They do look different, for what it's worth. Although, I feel like the hospital level's really short. It's more like the intro. Theater's neat. There's, like, I like the whole thing with the shifting the scenery around to make, like, the portal go to different places. That's like a puzzle. That makes interesting use of the whole, like, mirror swapping thing. Like, the puzzles are passable, and none of them are ridiculous. So, like, good. Basically decent effort. So, like, Origins, it is fine. It is fine. I do not dislike Origins. It doesn't exactly light the world on fire, but Origins is basically competent. I know that's very damning with faint praise, isn't it? But that's how I feel about Origins. Origins, it's alright. It's alright. I think I might be slightly more positive on Origins than, like, the vast majority of people are going to be. And this is also me, like, sort of taking into context that it is a PSP game, you know? I think a lot of people judge it on the same merits as, like, the PS2 games because they play the PS2 versions. I don't think that's fair, because it wasn't designed for it. A lot of things kind of get away with like, looking a bit jankier and maybe controlling a bit janky because PSP has less buttons to work with. I'm willing to kind of, like, meet it halfway on that. Other people play the PS2 port and go, why does this look like shite? And it's like, PSP ports be like that. Yeah, you ever played Ratchet & Clank's Size Matters on PS2? It's like, it's a PSP game. You should appreciate it as a PSP game, because that's what it is. Maybe that's being a bit too charitable, but that's how I feel about it. Next Western game, I think Homecoming was the next one released, although I don't remember. I should have gotten, like, a list of the exact order of release before I did this, but I didn't. Homecoming. Homecoming is bad. Homecoming is bad. Homecoming is bad. Homecoming's really bad. Homecoming is bad. I describe Homecoming as being the Sonic 06 of the Silent Hill franchise, because it was highly anticipated due to the generational transition, but absolutely technical nightmare, buggy beyond recognition, constantly breaks in ways that don't make any sense. It controls badly, it's ugly, it's questionably written, but the music's surprisingly good. That's the only thing keeping it off the F tier for me. I like the music. The music's good. If they still had Akira Yamaoka on the project, I still think he does a pretty good job with the music in that one. It's like a pretty good song. There's pretty good songs in this game. It's kind of the only thing. Otherwise, that game is a buggy nightmare to actually play. It breaks all the time. The puzzles suck. Love the sliding tile puzzle with the emblems, like, blah. I find Homecoming to be, like, such a nightmare to actually play. Like, it's also a third-person shooter with, like, really awkward aiming. I feel like it's so hard to hit stuff in this game. It's like, you turn really slowly. It's like, I don't know, it's just hard to hit stuff. One of the artistic strong points of Homecoming, though, to be, like, as balanced as, like, this is not a very balanced look at any of these games. I'm just sort of shooting the shit here. One of the artistic bright points of Homecoming is, I think, its bosses. I think its boss design. They're, like, pretty cool. They're cool, like, big old monster dudes. Everyone likes the funny doll boss. Asphyxia's, like, pretty cool looking as well. It's, like, kind of creepy and big. Maybe not exactly the most, like, cloying terror in you, but then again, Silent Hill 3 had Leonard, so whatever. The boss designs are neat. Actually fighting them, kind of a pain in the ass, but they look cool. They strike a cool visual profile. And honestly, anything is better than fighting those fucking enemies with blades for hands that block everything you try to hit them with, unless you hit them from the butt. So they can block bullets, they can block knife, they can block everything. Why do they block everything? I have sharp hands, that means I'm impervious to damage. So yes, not a fan. Shattered Memories. This one kinda took a while for me to sort of go with it. I didn't like Shattered Memories at all when I first played it on the Wii. If you asked me this after my first playthrough of Shattered Memories on the Wii, I'd have put it like here. I found it absolutely intolerable. Then I played the PS2 version, and my opinion of it did in fact improve quite a bit. As it turns out, I just hate the Wii. Like, having to waggle to push things down doesn't work! They don't work! Having to point at the screen to interact with stuff, I hate that. Please just let me use button. Like, having to shake enemies off with the Wiimote and nunchucks while having to push in a direction never worked good for me. I could never get that shit to go properly. It just, I don't know, never, But then I played the PS2 version finally, and I came away with a much more positive impression of it, because I could actually just press the button, and it would do the thing. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. So I upgraded Silent Hill in my mind from, like, being probably one of the games I enjoyed the least to one of the ones that I think is basically alright. You may notice here as well, is that we'll get into this later, actually, I suppose, but the two Western games I rate the highest are the two I have world records in, so, like, yeah, I guess so, right? They are the ones I could tolerate long enough. But I think Shadow Memories has the most... Of the Western games, it is the one I think has the most original sense of its own identity. It's the one that feels the most sure of what it wants to be. And I do respect that on a creative level. Now, I don't necessarily think the plot it tells, like, entirely works. On some level, it's just kind of, again, repeating the whole, it turns out to be about trauma. Can someone please remind people that Silent Hill games aren't necessarily about mental trauma? Please? Please? Someone? Anyone? But regardless of that, they wanted it to be a certain way, and the game, I think, executes its vision at least reasonably well. It feels like the most full of the Western Silent Hill games, besides Origins, I guess. And Origins is a very modest scope, to begin with. Whereas, like, Homecoming, and we'll get into the other ones, feel like they had bigger aspirations, but absolutely no ability to properly execute them. Whereas Origins and Shadow Memories feel like they have the most, like... They executed the most confidently on what it was they wanted to do. And I respect that. Shadow Memories' like core gameplay loop when enemies turn up, however, it's like just sort of you run away from the enemies and then you mash the button to climb the wall and stuff, and it's like, okay. I don't like how shallow interacting with enemies is in Shadow Memories, and it's also very random too. There's not really much strategy to running around in Shadow Memories. You just kind of run in a direction and hope that there aren't enemies where you're trying to run. That's it. There's nothing more complicated to do than that. That's just how it works. Big shrugs all around for that one. But regardless, I think it's got some, like, good environment stuff going on. There is a sense of mystery, at least. It does maintain the sense of mystery for a relatively long time, at least until the ending kind of, like, pops and it's, like, not a very satisfying conclusion to it. And there's not a lot of tension when you're just sort of walking around exploring, because the game is very rigidly split between its two halves of, like, this is the exploring phase, and then everything goes cold. This is the danger phase. Now you must run, and there is never the twain shall meet, you know? Never the twain shall meet. Hence, it's very easy to sort of, like, snap into a mode. Like, the tension drains once you get out of a certain thing, punctuated by a thud of the game tending to load in when you transition between one of the two phases. So, like, you'll notice when it's happening. But regardless of all of that, again, I feel like Shadow Memories is the most secure in itself. I feel like the psychology gimmick is an adequate idea that needs better framing, if that makes any sense. Like, Shadow Memories makes a lot of hay about, oh, the game reacts, how you play, things change. And, you know, like, oh, the subtle differences, but draws no real attention to them. So, like, when you get to the end of the game, you're not sure how many things happened because of the actions you took, and how many things were just things that were scripted to happen anyway, you know? And I feel like it could have done a lot better to sort of, like, encourage the player to replay that way. Like, present, like, when you get to the end of the game, why not just present a list? Of things that's like, you answered this way, so you saw this version of Sybil. But did you know? There are more versions of Sybil. You should try and find them. You fidgeted around in the car, so Sybil said you were restless. What if you sat still instead? You could get different dialogue. Like that, you know? I feel like the system should have actually been more transparent, because as it is, no one's really sure how it works. Like, if you try to get a specific ending, you might struggle, because no one really knows how the system functions. Like, if you play in a speedrun, right, like, you get the same ending every time, so this doesn't really matter. And the ending itself is irrelevant. That's the other thing that kind of bugs me about the psychology system, right? People always ask me, is like, you know, when I'm playing Shadow Memories, what ending did you get? Shadow Memories doesn't really have multiple endings. It's like the greatest scam that it claims to have multiple endings. It's got one ending with like a 10-second clip that plays at the end that ever so slightly changes.
Everyone knows Book of Memories is S tier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get to that. We'll get to why it's S tier in a bit. I'll hold that. I'm about to drop the biggest truth bomb. Yeah, Shadow Memories has limited endings as well, but like really tries to pose like how you play makes a huge difference to the conclusion, and that's just kind of a magician's lie. But even so, I feel like there could have been some joy in seeking the alternate like dialogue and alternate like looks for different characters. If the system were just more transparent in the end, like, fair enough, first time through, you know, don't tell players, oh, you looked at a bra, that means you gained 1 horny point towards your ending. But when you get to the end and there's, like, the whole patient report thing that flashes up over the credits, I feel like that's where the details should be about your playthrough, you know? Like, show it there, and then, like, you did this. This resulted in this evaluation. It's like, do that so people know what to change so that they can see different scenes, you know? There's not that many different scenes to see, but I feel like people would have been more encouraged to replay if they took advantage of the system. It's not a terrible idea, it's just poorly faced. Particularly because the game, at the end, does in fact say, you know, like, oh, there's lots of ground to cover. You know, why don't we start from the beginning with our patient? It's like, well, sure, that's all well and good. It's saying, replay the game, find out what you missed. But the player won't know what they missed, because you didn't tell them. Downpour! When it rains, it pours, and downpour smells! Blah! See. Downpour, I think's biggest issue is mainly that I just think it's kind of boring. I'll come out swinging on that one. I think Downpour is quite boring, but it is, like, generally functional, I guess. It's boring, though. Better than 4 and Homecoming. I really dislike playing 4. Homecoming is buggy to point of liability, and I really don't like playing 4. But Downpour, as a game, is... It's just kind of a vaguely bland third-person action-y sort of adventure-y sort of game. Monster designs aren't that interesting. Its interpretation of, like, the spooky otherworld thing isn't that visually striking or interesting. It had a side towards, like, sort of going for an open-worldy sort of horror game where you could run around town, but there's not that much to see, honestly. I swear. And also, Downpour's puzzles aren't very good. It tries, but they ain't that good. Like, bless you for trying, but no. I always get confused with its puzzles for some reason. I'm never able to pass them the way I feel like it wants me to. And the way it handles weapons as well is also just so frustrating. Origin's quick select system isn't exactly a marvel of fluid game design, but at least you can hold multiple goddamn weapons. If you want to hold a gun and a melee weapon at the same time in Downpour, you gotta, like, pick up the gun, holster it, then pick up the melee weapon. But if you do it in the wrong order, like, if you're holding the melee weapon first, he'll throw the fucking thing, and then pick up the gun. It's like, no, then pick up the... Like, you gotta do it in the right order, or it doesn't work properly. It's like, put the melee weapon on your back, you maniac. Like, why? And if he drops it somewhere where it, like, falls through the floor or gets stuck in a corner, you can't get it anymore. Sucks to be you. I definitely lost a gun once because I tried to pick up something on a pier and Murphy just flung the gun into the water. I'm just like, okay, thanks, man. I can't imagine that. Like, a standard inventory would have been fine. Like, relax yourselves. They really wanted to reduce, like, inventory use of Downpour is the reason I think it came out like that, you know? Like, they didn't want a horror game where you were constantly fiddling around with the menu, and I sort of get that, but I think it was misguided, because the end result is, like, more fiddly. Like, if you just let me pick the weapon I wanted to equip from a menu, that's fine. Nobody ever had any issue with that system, but, like, Downpour's gonna be like, no, you equip the last one you picked up. You don't know what you need. This combines particularly frustratingly with the fact that you need certain weapons to advance the game at certain points. Downpour goes in C tier. It's kind of bland. And the thing that really hurts Downpour as well for replays is that you can't skip any of the cutscenes. It's the only game in the series like this. But I think that's enough said about Downpour. Downpour doesn't make, like, blood come out of my ears the same way that Silent Hill 4 and Homecoming do. But it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. Book of Memories is fucking S tier! Book of Memories is the greatest game! Oh my god! No, it's like, no. I don't know, man. I don't know. Book of Memories is, like, not a very good action RPG, I'm sorry. It's fucking, like... I can never tell what's going on in Book of Memories. It's like, how does any of this work? It controls weirdly. Why does touchscreen equip... Why does touchscreen equip button? Like, equip weapon. Why... The double, like... The double touchscreen inputs for special moves as well is, like, a great way to ensure that you never actually use them. But overall, Book of Memories is just like... It's just like a slog to get through. It's just a slog of a game. It's like a playable slog, but it's a slog. And it's got, like, many quite frustrating elements to it. Like, I like the boogeyman stun-locking laser beam. It's like, Or the fact that Boogeyman can just not play the game. Like, he's got a move where he just bangs the ground, and then he becomes invincible for, like, the next 20 seconds. It's like, okay, I'll just wait. It's like when you're fighting on the playground and someone does their, like, I have the invincible shield that blocks every attack, but, like, they actually made that into, like, a game. It's like, nah. Among action art, I don't actually think the concept of Book of Memories is even that bad. Like, goofy Silent Hill dungeon crawler, like, could have been, like, a fun fan servicey time, you know? But it takes itself too seriously, and it's, like, it's devoid of much in the way of levity. And as an action RPG, like a top-down dungeon crawler, I can't recommend it to, like, anyone, really. It's like, what reason would you play Book of Memories if you weren't, like, a deep Silent Hill fan, and you were trying to play them all? Like, as an action RPG, it's largely without merit. As a Silent Hill game, it's also not really got that much merit as, like, a story, because all the story beats of Book of Memories are all, like, stupid drama nonsense. Feels like a teen high school drama rather than like a Silent Hill game. But adjusting the outcome of the story by messing with the karma system is probably the most fun part of the game. So it does its central concept some kind of justice via the plot at least, but it kind of needed a stronger narrative to back that up if it was like going to do anything of that sort. I'm not sure what they could have done, but what it came out as wasn't spectacular. And PT is trash. Worst game. What the fuck? No, I don't actually even want PT to be on this list. If I had the ability to alter this template, I'd have removed it because I don't have any interest in rating games that don't exist. So, like, I don't know. This exists in, like, the fucking who cares tier. This game isn't real. So that's how I feel about the Silent Hill. Like, quick recap for all of you. In the S tier, Silent Hill 3 and 2, I think these are the best games in the franchise, naturally. Silent Hill 3 is my favorite. It is my boo. Silent Hill 2 stands strong and tall, but I kind of think 3 makes very key additions that helps it to be a stronger game. Silent Hill 1 is the foundation, a strong game, but kind of controls weird. I think that's my biggest issue with 1, is that it controls weird and it runs like crap. So, like, technical issues, I guess. It's the first game of the series. It's a pretty strong entry for a first game in its franchise, you know? Origins, I think Origins gets a bad rap because of the shitty PS2 port, but as a PSP game, perfectly fine video game, I think. It's okay. It's, like, among the more playable Western Silent Hill games. Basically gets a pass from me. Passing grade. Like, you know, like, B's get degrees and all that shit. It's fine. Good enough. Shattered Memories, I think this has the most sure sense of itself as a Western Silent Hill game, and I respect that creatively, because the rest of the Western Silent Hill games have no idea what they want to be. I have various problems with it. I hated this game when I first played it, but it turns out I just hate the Wii. When I played the PS2 version of Shattered Memories, I was much, much more, like, pleased with it. It didn't make the game great, but it did take the game from, like, being a basically unplayable nightmare to, okay, I can kind of see what people saw in this. Like, this is okay. In the C tier, Downpour. I mostly just think Downpour's boring. That's the short version of that. I think Downpour's kind of boring. Silent Hill the Arcade. As a goofy rail shooter, it's not even a particularly great one of those, but it's alright. The cabinet design's neat. But it's not a game I'd enthusiastically recommend to either rail shooter fans or Silent Hill fans. And so too it follows about Silent Hill the Play Novel, which is a novelty for Silent Hill fans, but not much beyond that. It's not a great, like, it won't enthrall you with its flowery writing as a visual novel, nor is it going to, like, expand your brain about Silent Hill. It's a novelty game. But for what it is, it's fine. It's got some pretty good art. There's some neat things going on. Like, you know, like, how, can you seriously, like, harshly judge Play Novel? It's a visual novel in the Game Boy Advance. It always had fairly modest goals, you know? And I say it achieves its modest goals. Book of Memories. This game isn't particularly good as an action RPG or a Silent Hill game, so smack in D it goes. It's kind of a slog to get through. Silent Hill 4 is probably the one that the most people are going to find surprising. I just don't like playing Silent Hill 4 at all. I find it very frustrating. I don't like its controls. I don't like its, like, whole level layout. I don't like escorting Eileen. I don't like how the second half of the game is an exact repeat of the first, but more annoying. I don't like how ghosts don't have to be anywhere near you to hurt you. They just have to be in the same room. I don't really like anything about Silent Hill 4. I don't enjoy playing it in the slightest. I find it easily the most annoying game in the franchise to actually physically play. It's got good art design, though. But of the Silent Hill games that I tend to stream speedruns of and what have you, 4 is easily the least featured on this stream, and that's why I really dislike playing it. Homecoming is a technical disaster that barely works. It's got pretty good music, though. But technical disaster of a video game, questionably written. It's a very ugly game, too, due to the generational transition not really, like, faring that well for it. Homecoming is a nightmare, in, like, a bad way. I think that's all I really need to say about Homecoming. Homecoming, I described it earlier as the Sonic 06 of the Silent Hill franchise, and I stand by that assessment in pretty much every way that matters. HD Collection, this remaster is a nightmare. It's easily the worst rendition. It's one of the worst HD remasters of anything ever made. It is barely functional. Silent Hill 3 crashes all the time. The sound is completely busted. I don't like the new voice cast. Several things are broken that shouldn't be broken. It runs at the wrong speed. I cannot believe it shipped that way. Just disaster. What the fuck? Send help. Like, there's so many things that have been said about HD Collection, I don't really need to expand, but, like, HD Collection is in fact that bad. It is quite gross. If it's your only experience with the Silent Hill franchise, maybe this would end up being a bit high, be like, oh, it was alright, it's a bit buggy, but it's fine. This Silent Hill 2 and 3 are still good. They're still good games, but man, does the HD Collection go such a long way to damaging them. So bollocks to you, F-tier for you, and PT, this game isn't real. I don't really want this to be here, go away. Piss off, Norman Reedus. But now, folks, we move on to the second half of the tier list. This is the Speedrun tier list. I have ran basically every game in the Silent Hill franchise, so now I'm going to tell you how I feel about all of these games as speedruns, rather than simply as games. Opinions of the speedruns from a professional Silent Hill speedrunner. And this will differ. This is a list that differs in significant ways. Believe it or not. Namely, in that things are going to be more stark. Well, regardless, I'm going to start with one that might surprise you. We'll start with Silent Hill 1. It's alright. Silent Hill 1 has felt like a kind of a solved game for a while now. That people are still pressing to squeeze like the 1 or 2 seconds out of that orange is impressive, and there's a lot of interesting tech that goes into how to move smoothly through Silent Hill, but it feels like a really solved game to me at present. I struggle to like maintain long grind sessions on Silent Hill 1 these days because it feels very canned. I feel like I've seen everything. I feel like I've seen it all. The out of bounds stuff was neat. That like shot the game in the arm a little bit. But other than that, it's been like a frame war forever. Silent Hill 1 feels solved. It feels solved. But it's not like completely dead or anything. It's like there's interesting aspects to it. But overall, it's a game. I come back to Silent Hill 1 because I feel like it's very breezy to just sort of do runs of, though. Like, it's like riding a bike. I never seem to actually forget how to do the Silent Hill 1 run. But when you get to, like, the frame counting level, you start bumping up against absolutely inane shit that Silent Hill 1 does. Did you know that when you enter the sewers and are climbing down the ladder, if you let go of every single directional button before you skip the cutscene, Harry will start running quicker when you then hold down the button. But if you keep holding forward when you skip the cutscene, he'll pause for about half a second for no reason. Silent Hill 1 is really cool. That's the kind of absolutely absurd fucking minutia you need to memorize in order to do really well at the Silent Hill 1 speedrun. Silent Hill 1 goes in the B tier. I like it, it's a classic, it's like the first speedrun I really grinded for a very long time, so I'm kind of like attached to it. But it kind of feels like a drag these days. Feels like a drag. What makes a good speedrun? Hard to say. Hard to say what makes a good speedrun hit on by Solid Snake. It depends. It's more of a vibes thing than like a hard... This is also opinions, you know? This is how I feel. Silent Hill 2, we're doing this in order. I think this is the best classic Silent Hill run, and I don't even think it's close. Silent Hill 2 is just great. I love this game. The glitches are entertaining. It's too dark to read the map. Everyone loves to save the game. A classic. Classic run. Everyone likes Silent Hill 2. People seem to be more down on this post-RNG manip for some reason. I don't really know why. I think RNG manip is, like, it's, like, easy to execute, and it makes the run more consistent. So, like, it comes more down to how well you can execute the route. I think this is just the best one. Like, I like it quite a lot as a run. I enjoyed it while I was running it. It's glitchy in the ways that are interesting and fun to look at. There's a decent variety of glitches inferred by the like the whole like quick save, quick loady nonsense going on there. There's a lot of merit to it. Silent Hill 2 became like quite a fun speedrun as it became more glitchy, and then RNG manip like took away all of the annoying part. Because Silent Hill 2, if this were like pre-RNG manip, it would probably be A. I still like it a lot, but getting 2/3 of the way through a run and then having it die to blind arsonist was murder on the mental state. At one point, I got really pissed off running Silent Hill 2, where I was trying to get world record in dog ending, and I went a whole week without hitting blind arsonist once, and it drove me nuts. Like the streak of bad RNG like weared on my brain to the point where it was like I was getting like very pissy, like on stream. Like I'm pissy all the time. It's like you know, ha ha ha. But like no, I was like actually like in a bad mood constantly because of it. It was like wearing on my brain because I was like every time I would have a run that would be easily on like -11 whatever pace, easy world record. And the game just wouldn't fucking cough up the good RNG to save my goddamn life, and it was killing me. It was driving me nuts. But now you don't have that problem anymore. Nobody has to experience that ever again, so it's just good. I just think it's a good-ass speedrun. Good and fast. And it's got good category variety, too. There's, you know, the difficulty categories. Hard mode puts a spin on things. I think Mary has too much health, which makes the run kind of annoying. But if you're into that sort of thing, that exists. There's the Great Knife Only speedrun factor in Seal. You have to, like, cheat to do that, so not exactly, but it is a thing that exists. There is also hard mode plank only for the funny haha, like, variant of, like, semi-knife only. That's another thing, actually. Silent Hill 1's knife only is miserable. Silent Hill 1's knife only run is miserable. It's horrible. It's fucking awful. Hate that shit. But yeah, Silent Hill 2, great run. Love this little run. Cool game. Good effort. Silent Hill 3. This is a very mixed bag nowadays. I'm gonna stick it in A. I'm sticking it between. I like a lot of its glitches. I like quick save, quick load tech. I know I'm like sort of the outlier because I know quick save, quick load tech is a bit like splits the opinion of the community. That's why there's two categories. I like the funny shit. I think it enhances Silent Hill 3 quite a lot. I like the funny out of bounds. Fight me. I think they're entertaining. I like doing them. But I am not, in fact, that sold on the annoying, like, resize the game window nonsense either. Like, I'm not sure anyone really likes it that much. I think the effect of them is cool. I like what you can do with it, but the fact that, like, you have to destroy your game resolution to do it, and the fact that, it's also, like, random as well. Like, whether or not you go through the wall, even in the ideal circumstance, is kind of random. It's like you gotta give it up for the random element anyway. It's like you gotta do the thing, and then there's still a chance of it not working. So it's like, okay, but there's no escape from it either, because if you want to run like no quick save, quick load instead, as some people do, that category is also a random shit show. As I learned, I picked up that category over the past couple of weeks, and I don't think it's much better. I don't think it's much of an improvement. Instead you just get the annoying painting RNG right at the end of the game, where if the game decides to fail you on a 1 in 3, you lose like 30 seconds. It's like, okay, that's very cool, because that's functionally run dead. For any decently competitive run time, losing the RNG roll at the very end of the game is just run over. Fuck you, go to bed. And that sucks, so there's no respite from the randomness of the glitches, even if you pick the glitchless category, because the glitchless stuff is also random. I think it's actually worse. I think glitchless has worse randomness than the glitch stuff does. Just do the glitches. Don't be scared. Like, resizing the window is kind of awkward and weird, but don't be scared of the glitches. I think overall though, I do like running Silent Hill 3. A lot of this comes down to the fact I really just enjoy its movement quite a lot. I think it's a fun game to control, hence why it's my favorite game casually. But as a speedrun, the awkwardness of its technical requirements hold it back a bit. Because even I, like, sometimes I'm just like, I don't feel like running glitched in this game, because it's like, do I really feel like trying to setting this up so that resizing the game window won't destroy the stream? It's like, I think I'll do something else today. Silent Hill for the room. Hate this fucking run. Hate it. Piss off. Please never make me do this ever again. This is a random shit show. Go away. Eileen needs to stop practicing her fucking slam poetry. The One Truth is the worst boss ever put in a video game. Fuck Silent Hill 4. Hate this. Hate this a lot. I hate this run. I never like. This is why. This, you know, I kept saying during the casual rating that Silent Hill 4 is like the least featured game on this stream. This is why I hate this run. I hate doing it. I hate the movement. I hate Eileen. I hate the one truth. I hate all sorts of shit about Silent Hill 4's run. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate doing it. Awful nonsense video game. I like nothing about this run. Having to like mentally oh, is Eileen close enough to me for her to follow through the room? I gotta listen out for her. Oh, I went like a hair too early. Whoops, she's left. Now she's taken damage because I was out of the room for like 2 seconds, and now she's more possessed, and now she's gonna practice her slam poetry and slow the fucking run down like 2 hours from now, because it doesn't really come up until the late game. Silent Hill 4 has a problem as a speedrun that I call the failure spiral, the failure loop, or whatever, where when things start to go wrong in Silent Hill 4, they continue to go wrong. Like, success sets you up for greater success. Failure sets you up for more failure. If you get unlucky exiting the hospital for the first time where you find Eileen, and Eileen gets like stuck on a nurse and gets beat up or whatever, she can take a lot of damage in that one room, and if she does, it'll make the whole rest of your run worse. Because now that she's taken more damage, she'll move slower, she'll randomly stop in the middle of levels, she'll just be less cooperative in general when trying to get through the game. It makes everything more difficult. Like, it's not just one bad thing happens and, oh, okay, I was unlucky here, I lost 7 seconds. It's like, when something goes wrong once, it keeps going wrong. It continues to get worse and worse and worse, and that makes playing out no resets. Like, just trying to finish a run. I like to finish my runs, right? That playing out runs of Silent Hill 4 that start to go wrong is painful. Because you'll start to lose minutes over a run where things don't go wrong. It's awful. It's just painful, man. It's just painful. I don't like it. I dislike its inconsistency. I dislike its RNG. I dislike its movement. I don't like this run. Just don't like anything about it. It makes my brain hurt. HD collection. Twist, fuckers! It's actually pretty good! Haha! It's easily the best console run. Because, you see, the HD collection is so buggy that it's actually probably the fastest console version of Silent Hill 2. And 3. Probably. Maybe not 3. I'm not sure about 3. But you can do a lot of the funny saving glitches on the good run of Silent Hill 2 PC on the HD collection, because they left the debug save in the game on HD collection. So you can do a lot of the same cool stuff. So it actually works out pretty well for Silent Hill 2. Like, if you did the Silent Hill 2 run, and if the Silent Hill 2 leaderboard had a console category, HD collection would be the fastest run. I'm pretty sure of this. For Silent Hill 2 at least, I think HD collection would be the fastest console run of Silent Hill 2, rather than like the PS2 or Xbox versions. I'm pretty sure HD collection works out faster than Silent Hill 2, because you can do a lot of the cool stuff. It's got like version unique glitches. So like, believe it as well, we almost found a way to skip from Subway straight to the end of Hospital in Silent Hill 3 the HD collection, because the Princess Heart Out of Bounds stuff behaves differently on console. It like almost works, but it crashes the game. We were so close to greatness. We were really close to a timeline where Silent Hill 3 HD collection was faster than the PC version. But we don't live in that timeline. It barely doesn't work. It crashes the game. Like, you can get there. You can go from Subway straight to Hospital and skip like a shit ton of the game, but it crashes the game. So it doesn't quite work. It's like, it's a sad story. It's a sad story. It like almost gets there, but just isn't quite there. Yeah, there's a twist for you. HD collection, specifically Silent Hill 2, I'm talking about at least, it's not bad. As far as like console runs of Silent Hill goes, it's not bad. It's still Silent Hill 2. At the end of the day, it is Silent Hill 2. And if we're choosing not to care about the fact that Silent Hill 2's audio is like busted, then this is alright. You are gonna have to deal with the fact that sometimes it can just crash though. So have fun with that. Origins, meh. Running Origins is very meh. I know it's funny as somebody who has like the record in Origins, but running Origins always feels like, I feel like I'm zoning out every time I do it. It's like fine. There's like some nuance to it with how you manage your inventory and like the stamina drink stuff. Item layout stuff for Origins is like headache inducing. Why does it work that way? For those of you who don't know, the entire layout of item spawns in Origins is semi-dynamic. depending on what you picked up earlier, certain items may or may not spawn in, or may spawn in as different items. And I found out by pure accident when I was derusting for Igdisys' hotfix not that long ago that picking up a baton before the second boss causes like 5 extra energy drinks to spawn in. I've got the only run with like the new energy drink route because nobody, like, why would it do that? For what reason? And it saves time. Because like that's the other thing that kind of like sucks about Origins as a run is the stamina system. Is like Travis runs slow if you run for even a short amount of time, so you gotta constantly be routing around energy drinks. It's like kind of a pain. It's kind of a pain. But on the other hand, Bright Spark, you do get to stab everything to death with a katana, and that is the fastest approach to combat. Guns? We don't need guns here, we need a katana. And that's funny. So you become all-American trucker man who defeats the power of the evil cult with the power of anime and God by swinging his Hanzo steel at them. That's funny. It's also a game where you can wear a fursuit on New Game Plus. So that also earns it some points. Origins at least has a sense of humor. But sadly, there's not much category variety. New Game Plus as a run is pretty similar to New Game, but just instead of using your Hanzo Steel to kill bosses, you punch them twice with your funny fists and they instantly die, and it's like, okay. It's fine. Like, it's fine, but it's basically the same category. It doesn't differ spectacularly, it doesn't make like a large impact, whereas like Silent Hill 3's UFO ending is actually like a completely different beast. It's a very frustrating different beast, but it's a different beast. It's a different run entirely. Play novel. This is a mashing simulator. Boo. Like, I know this was the funny joke game of SGDQ, and I enjoyed the joke game while it was a joke game, but as like a, like a serious speedrun, this is just mashing dialogue. This sucks. I regret making the board for this. This is just mashing. There's nothing. It's just mashing buttons through dialogue and then occasionally pressing down to select B instead of A. That's it. That's all there is to it. Spiceless speedrun. I mean, it's this visual novel. What are you expecting? I wasn't expecting anything. Were you expecting something? No, I didn't think so. Moving on from that, I'm not going to give that much like scrutiny because that's a visual novel, mate. Like, what were you expecting? There ain't much to that. The arcade. This is also mashing, but slightly different. D. This is mashing, but you have to point at the thing you're mashing at. That's it, really. It's a railgun shooter, and like it's a fairly straightforward one. There's not that much nuance in how you approach the situation. There's some routing quirks to it, like how getting hit is faster in precisely one instance. That's kind of funny. But otherwise, hit the lever. Mash the button as fast as you can, shoot fast, hit everything, move on. That's it. It's pure mashing for about 30 minutes, and then you're done. That's it. Not exactly a whole lot of exciting depth and nuance to it. It made an amusing diversion for a couple of a couple of days of streaming, but that was it. Other than that, I'm probably like not going to revisit Silent Hill the arcade for a while. It's not a run or a game with much staying power. Homecoming. Wow! Surprising, isn't it? You know what I said about it being the Sonic 06 of its franchise? This is also an aspect in which it perfectly lives up to that. Homecoming is such a buggy fucking mess of a video game that its speedrun is really entertaining. Just constant glitches, constant out of bounds. Stuff is just happening all the time in this run. This is a game where you can, like, New Game Plus and New Game also differ dramatically and substantially in Homecoming, because in New Game Plus, you can skip half the game straight away because you get a gun, and as soon as you have a gun, you can clip right through. You can skip right through, like, the halfway point of the game immediately. So on New Game, there's a whole extra part of the route. There's all bosses. There's, like, reverse boss order in You can do reverse boss order in Homecoming. It's possible. It's a thing that can be achieved. There's, like, a lot you can do. Because it's just so buggy and so clip prone that there's like a lot of interesting tech to it. The main thing that lets it down as a run to learn is that the glitches and the clips, they're all really finicky. Like, I don't think anyone is like capable of executing them perfectly consistently because there's no real consistency to it. You just kind of do things and it'll maybe work. It works more often than it don't. But sometimes your run's just gonna die because the wall decided no, and you're gonna be like, that's how you'll feel. I've never, like, seriously grinded Homecoming, but I did, believe it or not, I did actually learn how to do this run way back in, like, the 360 day. I don't have any runs on the board, this was ages ago, like, I never recorded any of it, but, like, my opinion of this does come from having actually done it. This isn't just me, like, looking at the run going, oh, that looks cool, though it does look cool, it's entertaining to watch someone who's good at it do it well. I've actually tried to do it, it's fun in and of itself, but it is also quite frustrating, because it's very finicky sometimes, but it is, like, the Western Silent Hill speedrun with, like, the most going for it. There's, like, stuff occurring in Homecoming. It's a neat game. And there's more juice in that orange stuff. There's always, like, more complicated clips you could do. There's glitch variety, there's glitch interest, there's stuff. There's stuff. Homecoming's surprisingly good. Homecoming was, like, the pet favorite of the Silent Hill community at large for a while. We've tried to get Homecoming into a GDQ for a really long time. Because, you know, there was a time when it was pretty much just, like, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, always, for the community. We were like, no, we want Homecoming. We want Homecoming at least once. Because, like, Homecoming is also good, and we would like to show you why. And it did. We did eventually get it into GDQ. Like, it took a fucking while, but we did it. We were eventually able to go, like, can you please take one other than the main 4, please? Like, just for us, like, as a treat. Come on. But we did it. We eventually got it. We were eventually able to demonstrate why Homecoming actually, you know, Homecoming speedrun pretty neat. You know what's funny about Homecoming as well? Is that, I remember, what's his face? Tom Hewlett tweeted how he was baffled that speedrunners like Homecoming more as a speedrun than Downpour. Which, on that note, excellent transition. I know I'm doing this out of order, but whatever. Excellent transition. The reason why Homecoming speedrunners, like speedrunners of Silent Hill games, like Homecoming more than Downpour as a speedrun, Mr. Tom, is that you can skip the fucking cutscenes in Homecoming. Downpour has an hour and a half of do nothing! You can't skip cutscenes in the Downpour run, man. That's, like, so bad. That's so bad. Why do you do this to me? That doesn't help anyone. Outside of that, Downpour's run is okay. Like, it's kind of a point A to point B run, you know? Like, go to point A to point B, try not to lose your weapons as you go through, which is very frustrating. If you could skip cutscenes, this might ascend to at least B, but as is, there's so much downtime in Downpour where you're not fucking doing anything! Like, that sucks so badly and hurts it so much as a run that you every time you want to reset Downpour, you gotta sit through, like, an 8-minute opening cutscene all over again. It's so painful. Silent Hill downtime, it's like, damn, man. Oh yeah, also the weird pre-order bullshit. The pre-order bonuses are like, they make the run like, you gotta like keep the profile set up a certain way so you don't accidentally like lose pre-order bonuses. Downpour. Also not helping Downpour is that the IGT is broken. I know that's kind of a petty thing. For Homecoming we just use real time. But Downpour has an IGT, it's broken. So like, it took a while for us to realize to stop using it, because shit's busted. Shit don't work. Oh, yeah, it's very pay to win as well, because like Downpour disguises loading by making you walk slower in certain rooms, but on Series X that we can now play it on, it loads in faster so you can start running. That does improve the tempo of the run quite a bit, which I mean, Homecoming's also like pay to win because the load times on base 360 Homecoming are absolutely unbearable. But with Series X, it's like instant, so it moves on like way quicker. Downpour, if Downpour had a cutscene skip, it would be significantly improved, like unironically. But as is, holy shit, there's so much not video game in this run, it's painful. It's painful speed gaming. Shattered Memories, this is the other Western game that I technically have the world record in. It's like, how do you feel about the Shattered Memories run? This is another run I smack distinctly in It's Okay. I like it more than Downpour, but it suffers the same kind of problem. Because, like Downpour, you can't skip about half of the cutscenes. You can skip, again, about half of them, at least. It's kind enough that you're allowed to skip about half of the cutscenes. But anytime the therapist dude is sitting there talking to you, you just have to wait and let him babble at you. And then you, like, get maybe 3 seconds of interactivity where you press a couple buttons to skip whatever dumb minigame he's trying to make you play, and then you get back to the gameplay. It feels like, as a run, it feels like a DVD that keeps pausing itself every, like, 10 minutes or so, and you have to wait like 3 minutes before it unpauses. Can I, like, go now? Mr. Therapist, can I leave? I think I'm good here. But otherwise, outside of that, Shadow Memories is also very, like, point A to B run. Go here. Like, there's no inventory puzzling in Shadow Memories, really, so it's go here in the least amount of time. In chase segments, there's a little bit of nuance involved with how you should use your flares, depending on where enemies are and where they're positioned, but it's mostly luck. Like, if enemies are in the wrong place, then you're just kind of gonna lose time. There's, like, RNG to it. It's mostly just luck. Like, just throw yourself at it until you get a good result. It did lead to the funny advent of dude speed, as I called it, where not seeing an enemy when you start a chase segment is actually bad, because Harry won't run until an enemy screams at him. So, like, there's a balance between good RNG and, like, oh, no enemies, that's great RNG, but actually it's bad because you're moving slower. You need an enemy to try and chase you, but you need it to not catch you. So, you need to acquire dude speed by getting an enemy to yell at you. You get speed off the dude, hence dude speed. That made me laugh. That made me laugh. I think it's funny that the two Silent Hill games I've got world records in, Origins and Shattered Memories, are the ones I, like, rate as being kind of middling. But that says a lot about how I conduct my speedrun endeavors, doesn't it? Like, these are the two that... They're the ones I grinded out to get the record. They're also okay, I guess. They're fine. I mean, I did also used to have records in all of the trilogy as well, but they're competitive games and they shifted. Actually, well, I guess I technically do have I've melee only record in Silent Hill 3 these days. For both categories, both glitched and glitchless. Crazy. Book of Memories! D! This way around. Book of Memories sweep. No! Book of Memories is like 5 hours of somewhat repetitive dungeon crawling, but there's at least some joy to be had in how you route the action RPG. I think it's funny that you, like, fucking flamethrower everything to death. Yeah, Book of Memories. That would be a more entertaining game for sure. But I still had more fun doing Book of Memories than Silent Hill 4. I really don't like Silent Hill 4. I'm sorry, guys. I know that opinion is like sacrilege to a lot of people. It's like, damn, you really like preferred doing Book of Memories. It's like, yeah, I really don't like playing Silent Hill 4. I find it really hard to tolerate Silent Hill 4 for anything resembling, like, long periods of time. Whereas Book of Memories, I sat down, I routed it, and then I ran it, and overall that probably took me, like, 20 hours to do, because, like, I had to, like, run the numbers for a whole bunch of stuff. Book of Memories routing is, like, hurt by how opaque the game is. It's like, it won't tell you, like, how effective using a weakness is, but I passed all of that, and you know what? I enjoyed routing Book of Memories in the end. It was fun to sort of, like, chart the unknown territory of the action dungeon crawler, if only the run wasn't, like, 5 hours long. It's a bit repetitive for a 5-hour run there. It doesn't exactly have many interesting glitches to go around either, sadly. So I wouldn't recommend Book of Memories as a speedrun, you know? But either way, Book of Memories, that's not getting into GDQ anytime soon. Like, this is sort of like the dead zone of, like, these two, Book of Memories and Arcade, these ain't getting into GDQ anytime soon. I'd be surprised if Downpour got in. I don't want to say Shadow Memories has 0 chance, but I'm not exactly putting the high odds on it. I think, like, Origins, maybe this one could be a little bit better. Let me just move this one up a little bit, because I feel like this is the break point. I feel like this is, like, the break point of, like, these are games I would be, the top half, like, at B tier is where I'd be confident in, like, runs getting into a major marathon, like a GDQ or an RTA in Japan. Anything below that is like, this is not happening. I know Silent Hill 4 has been in. This one would also get, like, this would also, if we're going off marathon viability, this one would also be about here, but I hate Silent Hill 4, so... I hate Silent Hill 4, so it's going in the bin. But, like, the break point is about at Silent Hill Origins. Anything, like, below Silent Hill Origins, with the exception of 4, which I just dislike for personal reasons, is, like, a game that I think would have, like, very low, if not 0 odds of getting into a GDQ. I don't think Shadow Memories has 0 odds, but I'm not saying the odds are great. I wouldn't be that confident in it as a pitch. Downpour? Hell no. Hell no. Now, combined Downpour and Homecoming. Homepour. Now we've got a concept. Now we have a concept. Where's the home poor rating on this list, huh? Where's that? Why didn't you include that, streamer? Idiot. You put HD collection in, but not home poor? Stupid. Yeah, I know, right? I've really beefed it. I've beefed it with this tier list. I messed up. It wasn't a good idea. And PT is also sitting here. I'm not even putting this on the thing. I guess I have to now because I've touched it, which means you can't like get rid of it. Honestly, that's an analogy for PT in general. I click on it once, now I can't put it back down. I can't move it. Once you've used it once, it has to go somewhere. I don't know anything about this. I didn't want to put this on the list. I don't know anything about PT. I've not looked at its run. I've not played it. I don't care. This game isn't real. Go away. But yes. Brief summary. Summarize the speedrun tier list now. Silent Hill 2 is great. I love its glitch variety. I think it's the best one. It's easily the least random due to RNG manip existing. Very skill-based, cool run. Homecoming, the strongest Western run by and it's not even close. The glitches really make this sing. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot that's goofy. You can break the game in ways that are very entertaining. Cool run. Underrated. We pushed for this one as a community for a while to get people to understand, the joy of clipping out of bounds and slipping through the void. Silent Hill 3, this one has really entertaining glitch variety. I think this one has the most, varied suite of glitches available to it. The caveat is that half of them are really awkward. And that does hurt it a bit, but I still really like this run. I think moving Heather around is just a joy. It's fun to optimize movement in this game. And the glitches, while half of them are finicky, they are at least entertaining. You know, they do, infer the run with positive qualities. It's different. It's different than what you would expect it to be. And if for some reason you really hate glitches, you can run no quick save quick load and reset your run to painting 5,000 times if you really must. If you really must be like that, you can. It's legal. The cops can't stop you. Silent Hill 1 feels kind of canned these days. It's a very straightforward-ish kind of run, but there's not really been any major developments that really hugely have wowed me or a crowd in many years now. It feels like a solved game. But it's still a classic run. There's a lot of interesting nuance in how you move around, due to Silent Hill 1's tank controls being so weird, but also some of that nuance can be really frustrating to memorize. So, B tier, I think. It's easily the Silent Hill run I'm sort of the most, cooling off on these days. I think it's I feel Silent Hill 1 needs to sit in the back of my brain for a bit before I'm, really willing to give it a long grind again, because HD Collection. HD Collection 2 specifically is actually surprisingly good because they left debug safe in the game, so you can replicate a lot of the funny PC tricks on console, and that itself has value. Silent Hill 3 HD Collection is kind of whatever, I don't know, it's a console run. It's fine. I don't really run Silent Hill games on console in general. Origins is okay. It feels very point A to point B. Combat, at least you stab things stiff with the katana, that's kind of funny. Resource management is a whole system that's a bit frustrating to learn, but is at least funny to explain. Shattered Memories, very point A to point B run. There's no real combat in Shat Mem, so you kind of just go from point A to point B and do it fast, you know? Derisively, a lot of people would call this a walking simulator. I am hard-pressed to disagree. Downpour, this one's mainly hurt by the absence of a cutscene skip. There's an hour and a half of not video game in this run. It is a bunch of shite that's the case. It's really painful.
I too would disagree, but I have no opinions about any of these games.
Well, get some opinions. Get some opinions. Make some up right now. Just take my opinion. That's what being a YouTuber is all about, right? Is that, I have an opinion and then, thousands of people copy it. That's what it's all about. You gotta make the opinion. I'm creating opinions right now. I'm influencing. Right, where was I? Book of Memories. This is a bland action RPG run that goes on for too long. I'm hard-pressed to recommend it to anyone. When I was running this game, people were like, oh, are you going to submit this GDQ? Absolutely the fuck not. Are you serious? Silent Hill the Arcade, this is button mashing. I mean, the button is an arcade trigger, but this is button mashing. This is a button mashing speedrun. Silent Hill 4 The Room, I hate this run. I hate its controls. I hate Eileen. I hate its bosses. There's only 2 bosses, and I hate both of them. Hate. Hate Silent Hill 4. It's the run, there's definite nuance and things to learn and things to master with Silent Hill 4. It's got depth. I just hate all of it. I hate its depth. Go away. Do not talk to me. This run is not allowed to see my kids. Go, no, I'm breaking up with you. Please do not talk to me anymore. Play novel, this is mashing. This is just mashing dialogue. This run has no depth. It exists. This is a joke run. So yeah, that is how I felt about the Silent Hill games, both as games and as speedruns. Yeah, so overall, this was the tier lists I came up with for both things. Speedruns on the left, games, like casual games, on the right. These were the end results of the listing. Casual games on the right, speedruns on the left. I probably should have flipped the two, but I didn't, so whatever, deal with it. This is the contrast. Do we see differences in this list? Yes, we most certainly do. HD Collection is, like, basically unplayable as, like, a casual game, but as a speedrun, there's some merit to it. Homecoming sees the biggest improvement, going straight from D to S, because Homecoming is such a buggy nightmare video game that it becomes really entertaining as a run. Downpour manages to mostly stay in the same place. It's a boring game with an okay run. Like, that's just kind of how it be. That's how it be. Silent Hill 2 maintains its strong status in both cases. It manages to function both as a really good casual game and a really good speedrun. So, good for Silent Hill 2. Congratulations to Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 1 mostly kind of just sort of moves a little bit. I think it's stronger as a casual game than as a run, although Silent Hill 1 has the appealing quality of being quite easy to learn as a run. Shattered Memories, I think, is a better casual experience than a speedrun, provided you play not the Wii version. Provided you play not the Wii version. Like, don't play the Wii version! Ah! Waggling sucks! I know it was designed for the Wii, but still, I hate it. I hate the Wii. Down with the Wii controller. And Book of Memories and Silent Hill the Arcade managed to stay quite low. Like, they're shallow and repetitive as games, and they're shallow and repetitive as speedruns. Wow. Who would have thought it? If anything, I think I might dislike Silent Hill 4 more as a run than as a casual. Like, in a casual context, at least you can kind of take your time and heal up Eileen to, you know, absolve her of doing stupid shit while you're playing. In the speedrun context, you just gotta ball and hope she doesn't screw you over, and boy, do I not enjoy that. Yeah, that's the common thing where my opinion is gonna like really diverge from like a lot of Silent Hill fans, is that I really don't like 4. I don't like 4 at all, like, as a run or a game. I just don't enjoy it in either context. 4 is pain, man. Put myself in one of the... Where would I rate myself on, like, as you know, as a casual streamer? I think I'm like B tier as a casual streamer. Like, I'm alright. I complain a lot about games though. Like, I really struggle to not like explain my thought process out loud while I'm playing games casually. Because, like, I've worked on games before, so, like, these are just thoughts that consume my brain. I think a lot of people find that really annoying. So, like, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm the greatest casual game streamer in the universe. Some people seem to like that sort of thing. But sometimes I wish I was a bit less mean about it when I'm playing a game I'm, like, sort of not really connecting with. I feel like I upset people sometimes, because, like, when I start to not enjoy something, I really, like, go off on one. I've also got resting bitch voice. I remember that when I was playing through fucking, Scorn, and like some dude burst in and was like, I can't watch you, man, you complain too much. And I was like, I didn't even think I was complaining when the guy said this. I was just sort of like describing the game as I was playing. I was like, oh, this is happening now. I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit awkward, but alright. You know, I was just sort of like saying thoughts, and I was like, you complain. So I was like, really? Do I? I'm just like talking. I was just explaining my thoughts as I was playing. I'm just like feeling, but apparently, I don't know. I'm an B-tier casual game streamer, I think. That's how I feel about myself. As a speedrunner, I'm A-tier. I'm great at this shit. I love to go, but I'm not quite S-tier. I lack the dedication to the like the really hard stuff the same way other people do. I think I'm like, as a speedrunner, if I wasn't good at it, I don't think I'd have been doing it for like nearly a decade or some shit. So like, I think I'm pretty good as a speedrun streamer. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty good. I'm pretty fast. I've got grit. I can grind it out. I get good times when I get things going, but I really struggle to like dedicate stuff to really like high execution speedruns. Like, I have a very limited capacity for very high execution speedruns, like a Dusk or a Doom 64 or like Freedom Planet or something like that. I can only do like so much of that in one sitting before my brain is like fucking melting. I don't know how people can run those games like for long periods of time without just like having a meltdown. It wears on the brain so much faster than something like Silent Hill, which is pretty chill. I need chiller vibes from most of my speedruns, or it like hurts me. So like I fail to ascend like the tippy top tiers. I feel like as a speedrun streamer, I feel like this is what I would need to like gain a skill at to ascend to the top level. But on the other hand, people like it. People like the runs where it's chiller, and I am able to talk to chat more. Like, in part, this is you guys' fault because you don't let me do the runs that like require a whole lot of focus. You like it when I'm like sort of chill and chatting and all that shit. I mean, that's like streaming in general. I kind of get that, but sometimes I want to do a run that requires more focus, and I tend to get worse audience response for those. So I never get to develop that skill. So yeah, that's how I feel about myself, both as a casual streamer and as a speedrun streamer. How do you feel about that? Good, excellent. Glad we squared that one away. I thought it was topical as well to get this little tier list thing done in advance of the new games coming out. So then when the new games come out, I can revisit this, and then we can get a little contrast. It's like, how, you know, have my opinions on any of the games changed in the meantime, and where do the new ones rate? That sort of thing. So in other words, I'm milking this for future content, because I'm gonna fucking do this twice when all the new games come out. Yeah, that's the tier list. That's the tier list video. Thank you very much for watching. That will be the end of the stream for now. Thank you very much for watching.